we have to come back to our own state and what kind of economic surveys are we doing from Meghalaya? We have a Department of Economics and Statistics. It used to function very well initially.
We are caught in the political expediency trap. What I meant is actually that anything that we are going to talk about issues needs radical changes, a political will.
To evaluate how far Meghalaya has progressed, it's quite difficult because there's a state resources, state policy for development, and also there's also the central government. So it's very difficult to really judge how far we have progressed.
This is a matter of concern that we have to, the government has to take it up seriously because, see, unemployment, poverty will lead to what? It might lead to social disorder.
Good evening, viewers. Meghalaya has reached an eventful 50 years. There is so much to cherish, but also so many unfulfilled aspirations. To capture the journey of the state in these 50 years, we have with us an excellent panel of thinkers and people who actively engage with the socio-political issues in Meghalaya, people who have a caring concern about who has been left behind and what is the way forward to bring socio-economic equity. On my left is Ambassador R.V. Warjuri, a diplomat who has served India across the world, including some very difficult countries and assignments. Mr. Warjuri continues to be a sharp political observer and shares his views publicly from time to time. He has also been in the board of the Meghalaya Electric Corporation Limited. In the middle is Reverend Kirsoi Bor Purto, a man of the church, but of a different variety. While many in his position would prefer to maintain a studied silence on issues, Reverend Purto has actively pointed out what is wrong with the system of governance in Meghalaya. Reverend Purto has been an avid RTI or Right to Information campaigner in Meghalaya along with Mr. Michael's aim. Till date, he and his group in Thma Urangli Ujuki keep a strict watch in the manner in which the public distribution is being run, and they are engaged in social auditing of the Menrega and other public funded schemes. We also have with us Mr. Michael's aim, who once led the Khasi Students' Union and for several years now has been also an RTI activist. And he also now heads the Matchaprang movement, which has been consistently campaigning for equitable distribution of ancestral property among Khasi families. This is in direct contravention to the present system where the youngest daughter or the Khaddo inherits the lion's share of ancestral property of parents and the sons usually don't inherit anything. So we will start off this discussion with a brief overview from each one of you about Meghalaya at 50. How has the journey been and what are the high points that you can recall? I'll start with you, Rudy.
Let me focus this opportunity which Shillong Times has given us because so much has been written about the last 50 years. But I would like to say something, in fact, take this opportunity to try and visualize what is the future for Meghalaya, because that's exactly what our youth are looking forward to. And what are the situation as it is today? Is there a way forward that we can look at the future with optimism? So I would say that as it is, considering the fact like the last 50 years, so much of opportunities was there to make things better, I don't think we have done it. And with that kind of attitude, for instance, be it at the government level or as a people also, are we still prepared now to say the next 50 years, how will it be? Because I would like, after 50 years or maybe after 25 years, somebody can look at this recording of ours and say what we are going to say now is going to really materialize in any manner to look forward. So just one thing I would like to say, that as it is today, the situation that because at the end of the day, it depends a lot on the political dispensation at a particular time. It doesn't matter. I'm not talking about the present government, maybe even the government before this, the government after this. We are caught up in a situation basically of what I would call a political expediency trap, where nothing that radical changes can take place which requires a political will can happen. Is this the way to look forward, which our youth, to give them a future? I think this is what we have to debate now.
Reverend?
Yeah, thank you, Kong Patricia and the Shillong Times. I am of the same age with the state of Meghalaya, so I don't want to begin my opening remark with a negative note. But yes, now in 2022, we are celebrating the dream of a just, equal and fair Meghalaya, which the tribals of the state, alongside the other communities who had inhabited the state, wished to realize. Well, looking back to the past 50 years, of course, to look at the chronology of events is important, but what is more important is also to revisit the dreams of our forefathers, of our leaders, which include women. And for me, thinking about the statehood, I would like to go a little further back. The 1923, when they have the Khasi National Darbar. Of course, this Darbar pertains to the eastern side of Meghalaya. But I could see, and I was also inspired by the progressive minds of that era. Well, I may disagree with Reverend J.J.M. Nicholson in terms of theology and an understanding about Christianity. But one thing that I highly appreciate is about way back in 1925 when during the sessions of the Khasi National Darbar in October, he was the only one who moved a motion for the participation of women in governance and politics. I think that was the high point. And can you imagine at that point of time when the idea of women
in governance,
in
politics,
especially in politics, especially in Darbar, especially in the concept of the so-called traditional concept, which to me I still have doubts whether it is traditional or it's Victorian in that sense. So yeah, but we have to look forward. Yes. I mean, see, 50 years ago, our predecessors, have fought hard for the tribals of the state, along with other communities who have inhabited this place and who have called this place as their home. So I think we have to push forward. I mean, we look forward for a better future, and if we have not been able to realize now the dream, we should be, thinking that we should realize in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Thank you. Mike?
I thank you, Kongpat and the Shillong Times, for giving us this platform to air our views on the state and progress of our state these last 50 years. Well, it's not fair, to compare one state of India and another independent country. But, in terms of resource management, I would like to just note a difference between the state of Meghalaya and Norway as a country. You see, Norway, before the discovery of natural gas and petroleum, it was the backyard of Europe, one of the underdeveloped countries in Europe. But with the discovery of natural gas and petroleum in late 60s, 69, 70s, then the rulers of the state of Norway, they judiciously planned how to use the resources for the development of Norway and also keep in mind the future generation. So that's why in 2013, 2014, one of the agencies of United Nations judged Norway as one of the number one countries in the world to live in.
So how do you bring that?
Yeah.
That
So around the same time, Dr. Mukul Sangma in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, after the swearing in of some of his ministers, he said Meghalaya, in relation to developed states of India, Meghalaya is years behind. And in relation to developed countries of the world, Meghalaya is centuries behind. I just want to say that Meghalaya is a rich state in terms of resources, in terms of even manpower, I should say. So I would like to throw this to our other panelists to judge.
debate on.
Yeah.
So what are some
Because,
of the
just a point.
major obstacles along this journey? Because I think we need to understand the obstacles to be able to see how we can overcome them.
I had, before I came here, I had a look at the portal of the Meghalaya government website. And I came across about the performance of Meghalaya SDG India indexed. And the points mentioned here, it starts with no poverty. Now, no poverty, in 2019-20, the points given to Meghalaya is 68, okay? And in 2021, it is 77. Now, just to clarify, these point systems are given in these three categories. The aspirants is 0 to 49, the performer is 50 to 64, and the front runner is 65 to 99. Now, if you look at this, no poverty comes under front runner, which means poverty is much less in Meghalaya. I'm a little surprised by this. I want to know whether those who really is this
No, but we just saw that Meghalaya ranks 5th amongst the most poor states.
Even when it began in 1972, the per capita income was only 327 rupees, which was the lowest in the country, and now also it stands at 95,000. The income per capita, which is Meghalaya is among the 5 states, which includes Bihar,
yes.
so on, in terms of
at the same time, the zero hunger, it's very low. It is 35 1920 in 1920 and 37 in 20. So no poverty and no hunger exist together is something which is a little.
No, this is very contradictory because
that's why I'm a little surprised.
The
by
Niti
this.
Aayog has come up with anemia of women 56% in the age group of 19 to 45 years. Children wasting, stunting, malnutrition 41%. So I don't know how the Meghalaya government portal has all this, but it doesn't have the negative indicators.
So anyway, I don't know whether they get these figures from. Just since it's a government in the public domain, so I thought it's important to mention it. That is why.
Well, you see, these reports regarding Meghalaya, regarding health, regarding poverty, we have a lot of reports, like Meghalaya is this ranking, that ranking. But then there's another report saying that some of the richest farmers in India are from Meghalaya. You know?
So are you
So-
saying that we cannot trust
Yeah.
these reports?
And when you see, when I read the article by Mr. K.N. Kumar, when he said that, Kerala, which has less rainfall, has double cropping, whereas Meghalaya, which has the heaviest rainfall, we have only one cropping per year. So, and here we have a report that says that farmers in Meghalaya are one of the richest.
And that is
So
the.
I think,
sorry.
these reports also we have to take them with a pinch of salt. But really go inside, go into the villages, go into rural
No, no,
areas
so-
and really see.
Sorry, Mike. So we have to come back to our own state and what kind of economic surveys are we doing from Meghalaya? We have a Department of Economics and Statistics. It used to function very well initially, and every year we would get that small little handbook. Now for a long time we haven't seen that handbook. So while we can contest these reports, and there are many people who contest that 2011 socio-economic caste report, which says 76% of rural Meghalaya is landless. If you contest that, you must come up with an alternative
Correct,
report.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I read
it's-
something about, I read something about that the SDG cell is preparing something called a Meghalaya Vision 2030. Okay? It's a good thing. I think we should, it's commendable to do that.
Who is preparing that?
This SDG cell of Meghalaya
Oh,
government. SDG means Sustainable
Yes,
Development Goals.
development
Cell.
goals.
They have something like that, which have come out with these figures. They're preparing this vision. I read this in the portal. Now, at the same time, I came across Invest in Meghalaya. And all that is mentioned is ease of doing business, which is taken from the World Bank. And there's nothing, in fact, Mike has mentioned about some of the rich, some of the potentials in Meghalaya which can capitalize, but nothing is mentioned about why you should invest in Meghalaya. Okay, it's a good thing, but the way they have done it is, I think it needs much more professionalism to do that if you really want to promote. Why I insist on this investment, because this is the only way which can open the doors for more jobs and employment for our youth. And if you meet any youth today here, which I come across, they are smart, they have the potential, but what can we do to look forward? So this is something, unless you do something with Invest in Meghalaya, there is no way you can create employment for the youth here.
You were saying
No,
something.
but I'm concerned about the data which Barudi had just said, which indicates that there are no hunger and poverty in Meghalaya. I mean, that really bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's time that we have an independent
Yes, we
research,
need.
which is objective kind of a research.
Mhm.
Of course, now we have to rely on government data, so we need an independent group for research, especially in economic terms.
If there is one issue in this 50-year journey that disturbs you the most, what would that be? I start from Mike.
You see, like I said earlier, Meghalaya is rich in resources, but the gap between the have and have-nots, have widened about. But had it not been for the central schemes for rural development like MRGA and so many schemes, I think the gap between the have and have-nots would have been very, very wide. But we are lucky, not only Meghalaya but the whole country, that a lot of money has been pumped in by the central government for rural development. So that is one thing which are fortunate. And when you think about it, to evaluate how far Meghalaya has progressed, it's quite difficult because there's a state resources, state policy for development, and also there's also the central government. So it's very difficult to really judge how far we have progressed. And as far as your question, compared about, well, we see the brain drain. A lot of brainy people from our state have left the state, and the brain that that could develop the state has already left us. And one of the reasons why people they don't want to come here is, a lot of political interference, and people feel stifled. They can't bring out their ideas, they can't bring out what they have learned or the initiative and everything. So that's why we feel that I think this is one point which really saddens us, when we see the brain drain going outside the state of Meghalaya, which can contribute a lot to the state of Meghalaya progress.
There are 2-3 issues more which really, disturbed me personally at the personal level, and also, when I venture out into the community. First, we have had at one point of time, we have to face insurgency and militancy in the state, but also at the same time, we are happy that that has gone, and I wish and pray that militancy does not resurface in our state. And then number 2, yes, we have had years which we have to deal with communal clashes, which has really impacted the society. Well, I totally disagree with some of the quote unquote, where people say, oh, this is a genuine non-tribal. No, that is wrong. As a tribal, let us admit that we have to genuinely acknowledge that we have been living together, but the only thing is that we have to engage with each other. So there should be an interface, not denying the fact that we have different, ideas, different cultures, and we can never say that we are one. I mean, we have to accept, we have to admit that
within the larger differences.
Yeah. So what is important is to engage. Unless we engage, so we cannot move forward.
Yes.
So that is point number 2. And more than these issues, my worry today is the rise of poverty and landlessness among the tribals. So whether people contest the socio caste economic based census, whether they contest it as authentic or not authentic, that is a different thing. But we see with our own eyes how tribal people become landless, and this will, day by day, it will, increase. The number of landlessness in Meghalaya will increase, and also unemployment, which is a major concern now. A friend of mine, Dr. Bhaktoram Mauro, had been helping me in analyzing one data, which the indication, which is only from January 2018 to November 2021. And as per that data, there is uncertainty. Not only unemployment, there is uncertainty in employment.
Even those who are employed are uncertain about holding on to their jobs.
So 2020, between April and June, there is a rise of 10% unemployment. And in 2021, between April and July, again, there is a rise of 5%. So which means that even if I'm employed today for 6 months, but another 3 months I will be, out of...
Not sure.
I'm not sure. So there is not only unemployment, but also uncertainty in job security. So this is a matter of concern that we have to, the government has to take it up seriously, because, see, unemployment, poverty will lead to what? It might lead to social disorder, which my fear, my apprehension is that this might also lead to the resurfacing of
insurgency.
Insurgency. The second coming of insurgency might not be insurgency as such. It might be mafiaism, I mean, in that sense.
One
Okay,
thing that concerns you.
I started in the beginning by saying that we are caught in the political expediency trap. What I meant is actually that anything that we are going to talk about, issues, needs radical changes, a political will. Now, I'll take just one issue. Fundamentally, whether you look at any country which has progressed and developed in the world, even states in India, if you look at it, one issue I think here, which you really have to take radical decision, is the land holding system. By this I mean, I don't want to say that traditionally it's wrong. The point remains that we need a land records. Before Pastor Pertu mentioned about landlessness, okay? Before we deal with it, we need a land records, which is very fundamental here.
You
Because
mean a cadastral survey?
absolutely,
In short.
you need a cadastral survey so that there's a proper recording, a proper documentation. Because without proper documentation, you cannot go forward. Now, a farmer who has land, simply because he doesn't have a proper documentation, if he wants to expand his business, whatever little business he's got, be it cultivation or be it livestock, he cannot go to the bank and say, yes, I need a loan for this to expand my business. I think this is, the cadastral survey is very fundamental to go ahead.
So, let me ask this question. What do you think then are the missed opportunities of Meghalaya in the last 50 years? Missed opportunities that could have taken us to the next level?
Well, you see, this private ownership of land, they are the pros and cons. You know, because this is my land, I'll do whatever I want. So without thinking about...
Are you talking about that slogan, Hari la jong le kat baman? That is the latest slogan.
Yeah, but you don't have to go to that slogan to describe the private ownership of land.
Okay.
You know, but and because of this, you know, the government has not been able to to manage the resources which are available in our state. So there's a concentration of wealth in our state, you know. But then we fail to realize that, okay, this is your land, you can do whatever you want, but the moment you come out, that's a PWD land, road. You know? You use the resources, the electricity of the government, you use the water of the government. So that's a point which the government can control. But it seems that the government has missed out on this, you know. Where we're seeing that because it's private ownership of land, private forests, do whatever we want, and the government has no control. But I think that is wrong. I think if the government, you know, changes its...
So what is the missed opportunity you see there?
The missed opportunity is that, you know, the generation of wealth, you know, the government has not been able to utilize that wealth for the development of the state as a whole, you know, which has led to concentration of wealth and the gap between the have and the have-nots.
Are you stating that we are not paying for those resources that we use?
Yes, because you see, like I said, you know, it's my land, I do whatever I want. And now we've been talking a lot about illegal mining, illegal transportation of coal and everything, you know. And the government doesn't seem to have any control. But there are crores, hundreds of crores of revenue going out.
Yes.
Which could have, you know,
So, yeah,
gone to the treasury of the government.
That is a missed opportunity. Reverend?
Yeah, for me, the missed opportunity is that we have not been able to democratize our traditional institutions. Democratize in a modern sense. Yes, I do not want to dispute here about, you know, the claim that, you know, Khasis are very democratic in that sense.
Who said that in the first place?
Yeah, so at this moment I don't want to dispute, but let us take you back to the 1923, which our predecessors have attempted to democratize things. Let me mention there are 3 laws which they have passed in the Khasi National Darbar. And also the rules of the Khasi National Darbar, which, you know, it's a very progressive rules, you know, which includes everyone. So, but we have not been able to follow that track.
Capitalize on
Yeah,
that.
to capitalize on that. And now, I'm so sorry, with due respect to everyone, I mean, we are in the 21st century, but our mindset, is regressive.
18th,
It's
18th
regressive,
or
yeah.
19th.
So different laws, because I said this with an experience. I remember when we had the village administration bill debates. I mean, I'm so sorry. Only last Saturday we had the annual Dorbar Shnong, and the head of the Shnong, the Rangba Shnong, had to appeal to the people uh, to the residents of the Shnong for buying a vehicle for the Shnong, for multi-purposes to be used for the Shnong. So it strikes me that, had we had a robust village administration law, we should not be be worried about
You should have
the
generated
fundings. Yeah.
enough revenue.
Yeah. So now, then it strikes me as if Snong is also kind of a NGO type, with due respect. I mean that we have to exert for, in terms of mobilizing funds and so on and so forth. So village administration bill is one which we had experienced, which no one wants to open their mind, to sit across and debate. I'm not saying that what we propose is 100% okay, but still there are rooms for improvement,
Yes.
especially on the gender question, which is the major stumbling block.
Yes.
So now also new bills, Might also would like to add on that. The inheritance law, and then the lineage bill. So
No, but do you think
these are the missed opportunities.
do you think that the councils are really serious when they pass these bills?
Maybe they are, but
Isn't it more populist?
or underinformed. But I want to say my part of it, the missed opportunities. Two things, basically, education and health. Now, why I'm saying education and health? Because I'll give you an example which has implications for the whole world, in fact. Now, if you look in the 90s, China and India are the same, be it health, education, everything, infrastructure, everything. I'm not comparing, but just to give you an example. Deng Xiaoping, when he wanted to reform China, he wanted basically focus on two things, education and health. And why education and health? Because without health, you cannot really contribute anything to society. Okay? You've seen it, Niti Aayog's data, whatever it is, we have talked about it. And education, because when you read the dropouts, which takes place in every year, it shocks me. And I see it with my own eyes, because now when I come across people. So these are the missed opportunities. Unless we fix this, the future is going to be very, very gloomy.
So you're speaking about education. What is it about our education system that prevents our youth from being forward-looking? What is it that still, pulls us down to the level of wanting reservations? How long can we have reservations? Is it good? Is it good for our young people to constantly rely on reservations? Or do you think after 50 years of statehood, is it time to do away with reservations?
Let me take on this compat. I think as a tribal, I still need a reservation. But we have, if ever we want to relook at the reservation policy, which now is also one of the issues, signature campaigns that happen. Youths out of their, fear about their future also join in, the bandwagon, which is their right. I have no issue with that. But I think if we relook, if we want to review the reservation policy, I think economic reason has to be taken into account.
Yes.
That economically unsound
The creamy layer
residents
should be out.
or citizens of the state has to be looked into. And also in 2017, there is a clear directive, clear observation of the Meghalaya High Court that if ever the government thinks of reviewing the reservation policy, the judge said that the Constitution of India does not desire more than 50% reservation. So, well, on that note, economic issues should be the major criteria for reviewing the reservation policy, and also politically backward. So, if there are politically backward in the
What
state,
do you mean by politically backward?
I mean, that's what the Constitution says. I mean, the judgment also said, but we have to look whether that applies in our state. And I mean, that is a different issue. But economic issue has to apply, because, like Barmaid had said, the haves and the have-nots, the gap between the rich and the poor, even among tribals.
Yeah,
I'm so
I
sorry
agree.
to say that, even
Yeah.
among tribals. Yeah.
I agree with Pastor Purto that reservation should be based on the economy, status of the person. Because we used to have this annual award in Maharam Sameship for my father's memory. So we started off with 60%. Those who get 60% above, they'll get this cash award. After 5 years, we found that so many people are getting more than 70, more than 80. So we have raised the standard now to 80%. Those who get 80 above, even now they're getting 80, 90, So I've seen that
So it
our
motivates
people,
them.
yeah.
No,
So
it
I've seen
means
that our people,
the capability is
yeah,
there.
the capability is there. So from Machaprang also, one of our vision is that one day we should do away with this reservation in terms of quality. Of course, in terms of quantity, we are a small population. We need political reservation. But in terms of merit and quality, we should have a time frame that in such time we have to do away with reservation, but only for those who are economically weaker, then we'll have reservation for them.
But what intrigues me, because since we are talking about Meghalaya at 50, what intrigues me is about what were the discussion then, when our political leaders, I said it was Babaring's master stroke, in having this 40-40. But now we are facing a yoker on reservation policy.
I just want to add to this. In fact, if you're talking about reservation, even a developed country like United States have something called affirmative action. So but obviously, I think the point is very clear that it has to be economic based. Okay? And then the other thing of it is, in fact, the very concept of reservation for capable people, we're talking about capability now, you approach it with an inferiority complex, which is not good, because I can be as good as anyone else. I think we should start with that. The attitude, the mindset should be that I can compete with anyone else. Why should I need it? So that is, I think, fundamentally it's very important, but at the same time, if at all it has to be there, it should be on the economic basis. Yeah.
Meghalaya has seen many missed opportunities, and I'm listing one of them, which is the railways. Why are we consistently resisting railways when we know that it could have enabled farmers to sell their products much more efficiently? It could also bring products into the state with a much lesser price, or at a much lesser price. And it's also cleaner for the environment. Now, is it correct to say that successive governments in Meghalaya have not had the courage to think or go for the larger public good, but have been hamstrung by sundry pressure groups, because when you talk to people who do business here, including our own tribal people, they are saying that nobody talks to them, nobody consults them when it comes to railways, to have or not to have. So what is your take on this?
In fact, to me, it is very absurd to oppose these railways. Because why I give a solid example. You have Simla, which is even higher than Shillong. It has been there for railways, have been there for 100 years. It has not, the indigenous population, they have not suffered in any manner. It has to do something with the way Himachal government runs it. But so that is exactly, I think this is basically a bogey which is being used. Which that's why, again, which makes the political dispensation to be caught in this political expediency trap. You take decision only on the basis of expediency, and there is no radical change at all. And something like the railways, you need to be courageous enough to take a radical decision about it, regardless of what happens, because the cost of transport between Guwahati and Shillong, according to the NEC data, is something like 127 rupees per kilometer, whereas from Guwahati to Calcutta is something like 20 rupees, So it's absurd. Who suffers at the end of it? It's the consumer which suffers. It's the people which suffers.
I think yes, we have to weigh on economic terms. So someone has to come up with a concrete,
cost-benefit analysis.
Cost-benefit analysis. Yes.
You see, when I remember when Frontline magazine, they interviewed me on railway. That was in 1987, 89, I think.
That far back.
Yeah. So I told them that we are not against the railway, but the government also should have mechanisms, in place to see that influx also will not be, can be checked. Because we see like Dimapur now, the Nagas there, they are minorities. So I think people should appreciate that we are a small populated community, and we don't want to be minorities like in Tripura. So the mechanisms, like I was saying, like like loading, unloading, instead of being labor intensive, the government can introduce capital intensive ways and means how to do this loading, unloading, and not allowing these colonies to be developed in the tracks, railway tracks. So these are, things which the government should look into before bringing in the railways. I mean, talk to the people. There are many things that, the fears are there. So address those fears.
Reverend, you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, see, influx is a concern, but mechanisms has to be there. But we already have several important laws which are meant to protect the.
But like somebody
said, the minuscule.
Somebody said the laws don't help us in any way because it's in
See,
the implementation.
No, see, even the much talk about land law, which is the Meghalaya Transfer Regulation Act, whatever, 1971, and that has been diluted. And the dilution had started long ago, since 1979. Post 1979, there was a barrage of notifications. Of course, there are economic compulsions, no doubt. But more than economic compulsions, there are also equal numbers of self-interest, which notifications were issued to serve a few lot. So, and then why not, strictly implement the what is this bill in Khasi Hills District Autonomous District Council? The regulation by trading by non-tribals. And then, these laws and the Benami law, which no one talks about. I mean, we already have laws in place, but I don't know. But one more thing. Rather, if you look at the future, rather than, of course, influx will be an issue, but I'm now thinking about we move out. Our neighboring country, Bangladesh, is doing better than India in terms of economy.
Yes.
Should we look forward, towards the east, where we cross the border and set our business in Bangladesh?
No, I just want to add one thing about this mechanism part, which is it's a fair thing to do. Certainly. I think every community in the world is concerned about its own community. That's fair. The interesting thing about what I notice here is that the whole government is run by practically local people. The whole district council is by local people. If we cannot do that part, whom are we to blame? We have to blame ourselves. Now, I'm glad that Pastor Parto mentioned about Bangladesh, because for Meghalaya in particular, if we are thinking to go ahead, export, import, everything, we have to.
They are the best.
In fact, a look-south policy for Meghalaya is required so that we can do business with Bangladesh, which is very keen to do so with us also.
We are nearing the end of the program.
No, on Bangladesh, let me add one more point, because I read a published paper in Indian Research for International Economies, 80 to 90% of people, residents of Dauki, who are women, doing business with Bangladesh informally. Why can't we formalize that business?
Yes.
And we
This
should
is a
have
point.
80% local residents who will have major stake in that
In the
That's
business.
why,
trade.
Pastor, we need that law, the equitable distribution of self-acquired and ancestral property, to economically empower all the children of a family to go into business. Because influx is an economic, factor. Most of the people who come to the state because of economic reasons.
Because
So
there are
unless
opportunities.
opportunities. So unless we go into business and have this law to economically empower all the children of a family, then only we can, go a long way to stop influx.
We've had a very, very interesting discussion, and there are many more issues that we need to take up, but we hope to be able to meet again sometime soon, because we really need to analyze, critique, and look at ourselves much more, with much more sincerity and frankness, so that these views go out, and hopefully those who are going to be in government in 2023 will take a look at these issues, will debate on these issues, and will carry out forward some of the outlines that have been stated here. Because now we need to take a giant leap, in the next 50 years to be where the other states are. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for this opportunity to listen to you, to your very wise and very strategic views. Thank you very much.
Thank you.